Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer for Lilo! Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got a great podcast for you. This will probably be the shortest first segment of the entire year because we're going to recap what we saw on Thursday. We saw one game on Thursday. It was the Mets getting the job done, but we're back to normal with regards to picks and analysis. In the final segment, we're picking all 15 games as we've technically got 28 teams in action, but we got double dip between the Rays and the Red Sox, so we'll touch them all there. In segment number 2, one of our good friends, Jake Hasan, he does such great work over at Better Day. He and Kobe Marcio host the Off the Board podcast. He does a great job with his Substacks page and so much more. We're going to chat with him about what he's expecting from the second half, how he might be attacking the futures market, if at all, which American League teams might lend some value, which teams does he want absolutely no part of, and we'll take a look at the games for Friday with him as well. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline, and the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via the 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter/X questions, but hey, I had the Mets and the under on Thursday, so I was a very happy camper. Let's take a look back at this and try to take a look at some of the trends that we've seen in baseball thus far this season.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
4-1, they get the job done against the Philadelphia Phillies, who actually have a better win percentage on the road rather than at home this year. And for Aaron Nola, he was not super. He only gives up 3 runs in 6 innings. All 3 were via solo home runs, so he was very lucky that he didn't give up more. Francisco Alvarez, home runs number 10 and 11 of the season. Brett Beatty, he gets his 5th. From there, Jonathan Bolin, a shutout inning. Seth Johnson, he gives up 1 run over the course of his 2 innings. And Christian Scott was great. Scott, 5 2/3 innings scoreless, 7 punch-outs. Brooks Raley does not go off the Rayleys and out of the bullpen scoreless. Oscar Brisbane, a shutout inning. Luke Weaver does give up a home run to Trey Turner down for what? 11th home run of the campaign, but Devin Williams was able to come in for a shutout inning. So hey, to start off the second half of the season, the underdogs are 1-0, and the under is 1-0 as well if you're looking at the entirety of the season, because we've had much more than just one game thus far this season. Overs and unders are relatively 50-50 right now. 707 overs, 703 unders, and if that serves me correct, I believe we've had either 33 or 34 pushes along the way as well. Favorites on the money line hitting at 56.1%, 788 and 616. If we were to look at the last 7 days in Major League Baseball, we wouldn't have a big sample size, but if you look at the last 30 days in Major League Baseball, under rate is about 52.8 or so percent. 186 unders, 166 overs, and along the way, I believe we've had 14 pushes, and favorites on the money line earning at 57.2%, 199 and 149, and among those 199 favorites, 46 have failed to cover the run line. And if you're looking a little bit more at the season to date with regards to these favorites, who are 788 and 616, you have seen 184 fail to cover the run line. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're getting trend-wise. Coming next, let's take a look forward to the second half of the season and Friday's games with our good friend Jake Hasan, who does such great work over at Better Day and his Substack right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Great to be joined by this man, as we've got Jake Hasan on board. He's doing an amazing job taking a look at this great game of baseball all 12 months out of the year. He does a great job with his Substack page. He does a great job with our good friend Kobe Marcio on the podcast, the Off the Board podcast over at Better Day, and so much more. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at the Jake Hasan. Last name is spelled Hasan. And Jake, it's great to get you aboard. Thank you.
It's even greater to have games back in our lives, Greg. We don't have to pretend to give actual breakdowns of the All-Star game. So I think that's the biggest win here for everybody.
Oh, yes. As I was telling everyone on this podcast the last few days, the All-Star game and the Home Run Derby, those are your coffee bets. Those are not your pay the mortgage bets, because, man, it's an exhibition game. Now things actually count, and thankfully we actually got a game on Thursday as well. Better than no games on Thursday, but just how are you taking a look at the second half of the season? Because I do think that there have been a few teams that have separated the National League, and we've talked about this a few times, and I'll bring it up again. In the American League, it just feels like there's no rhyme or reason to anything in that entire league whatsoever right now.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the American League is what's going to have everybody's attention here for the next 60 games or 70 games, however many, depending on a couple game discrepancy here and there. But it's all eyes on the American League, right? Because you have the Red Sox who go into the break winning 9 straight. They're 10 games back in the division, but you start to squint and say, okay, could they make a run here? They're only a half game out for a wild card spot, so that's something to watch. And then whatever the hell is happening in the AL West, where the Rangers are your current leader, but the Mariners are the only team with a positive run differential, but their pitching is a mess, and it's just a whole disaster. I think for me, Greg, when I'm evaluating the quote unquote second half here, I'm just looking at the teams that we've trusted so far. The Rays have been one of the most profitable teams all year. The White Sox have been the most profitable team all year. So I'm just going to continue to look at those teams, and we'll talk about it when we get into Friday's games, because I'm going back to those horses.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad that you bring that up as well, because it is out there in the American League such an interesting landscape, and I actually do think that the Rangers are going to be able to pull out that division when I take a look at it, but man, what do we make out of just so many flawed teams in the American League, where it just feels like there's a lot of teams with really, really good pitching and absolutely no offense whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think that's the Rangers' problem, right, is that they have a great 1-2 punch with Jacob deGrom and Nathan Eovaldi. Especially Eovaldi pitched really well in his last 4 or 5 starts going into the break. Greg, he had 46 strikeouts or something like that, 43 strikeouts in his last 5 starts going into the break. So you're starting to see Eovaldi come into form as well. And we know what deGrom can do. It's just a matter of, can the Rangers lineup stay healthy all at once? I've said this to you before. If we could ever get Langford, Young, and Seager all on the field in the lineup at the same time for more than like 4 seconds, this team is a sleeping giant. So I think if they could ever get healthy in the lineup, they're going to be a real threat. And this front office likes to take swings. We saw them make the trade for Mackenzie Gore over the offseason. We've seen them make moves at the deadline before. So I think this Rangers team is one to keep an eye on for sure, because when you look at those other teams in that division in the AL West, the Mariners, the pitching staff pound for pound is really good, but Logan Gilbert can't pitch at home. Brian Wu can't pitch on the road. There's even discrepancies with Emerson Hancock as well, and we don't know what he's going to look like as he starts to pile up innings, like career high in his career. So I don't know. I don't trust them. And then the Astros, their rotation's a mess behind Hunter Brown. I mean, Tatsuyama has not lived up to expectations. Peter Lambert's your number 2 right now. So I think for me, everybody wants to ask, who's the sleeper? Who's the dark horse? I think the Rangers are the only logical option.
And I'm so glad that we bring this up as well, because I do think that if you're looking at the American League, there can be some value in the futures market just by taking a look at these next few games as well, because I can't remember ever seeing so many teams on the cut line of whether or not to be buyers or sellers. Like for the Minnesota Twins, we were thinking for the longest time that they would trade away Joe Ryan. Who says they don't go out there and win 7 out of their next 10 games, and all of a sudden they might be in control of a wild card spot? We've got a lot of these teams that are in that scenario. Pretty much every team aside from the Angels in the AL West are sort of in that neighborhood as well. How do you take a look at the futures market right now? Because I really think that it comes down to evaluating these next 2 or so weeks of games to be able to determine, all right, is this team going to be a buyer or a seller? Because it can easily go one way or another with so many teams.
Yeah, and I think that's what people are going to try and do. You mentioned the futures market. People are going to try and squint and say, okay, well, if this breaks the right way and they end up being buyers. Greg, I'm glad you mentioned the Twins, because they're a team that, to me, sure, they're quote unquote in it. They're technically in the hunt. It's like the NFL graphic, right? Where at the end of the season, it's week 15, week 14, and you see in the hunt with a 8-7 record or something. You're like, okay, let's all be realistic about what's happening here, though. So like a team like the Twins, for their long-term future, the right move is to sell, is to trade Joe Ryan, is to try and find a taker for Byron Buxton and see if he'll waive his no-trade clause. Sell Royce Lewis, because even if you make a wild card spot, does anyone really think you're beating the Rays or the Yankees or even the Rangers? So the Twins, to me, are a team that need to be a seller. I have no interest in them, but a team that kind of is in that bucket is the Red Sox. We've been asking, well, are they going to hang on to Sonny Gray? Are they going to hang on to Aroldis Chapman? Well, now Wilson Contreras is coming out saying, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not waiving my no trade for anybody. So that kind of implies to me that the Red Sox are going to go for it. They're really the only team, Greg, to me, that is on the outside looking in right now as of this moment that you could convince me we could go in on, because they're going to be buyers.
And I think that it's going to be so fascinating with this Red Sox team as well. They canned Alex Cora towards the beginning part of the season, and all of a sudden, they've been able to pick up some steam as Jake Hasan, who does such great work over at Better Day, is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And Well, for the Red Sox, we get to see them twice on Friday. We're not sure who's going to be going in game number 2, so that game is completely off the board. But in game 1, we do know that's going to be Jake Bennett going up against Griffin Jackson. For the Rays, in some places they open up as a favorite. Right now, the Red Sox are starting to become the favorite in more of these markets as well. Total is 8.5. How do you take a look at this Red Sox team in terms of this double dip and just a series in general against the Rays, a Rays team that does have the best record in the American League right now?
I want to bet the Rays, Greg. I'm just going to go out and say it. I want to bet the Rays. And if you're getting them as short favorites, and in some places you're getting them at like minus 106, I really like the Rays. They've been the best team in the American League. They've been so consistent. I'll hear the arguments because we have to see what this is going to look like for Junior Caminero after he gets hit on the hand in the All-Star game. But x-rays come back negative. He says he's going to play. So obviously it's a hand injury and, you need your hands to swing. So we'll see what this looks like. But even if Caminero's a little bit hamstrung, I think that this lineup is still so good. I know Griffin Jax hasn't exactly wowed people, but I think even for Bennett, there's some regression coming. He can't possibly keep up the amount of success that he's had. So he's good, don't get me wrong, but I think there's some regression coming. And for a Rays team that can just kind of beat you in so many different ways, I like the Rays in the series, and I like them in the first game on Friday as well.
Yep, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in game 2 because Mason Engler, we know, is going to be going there. If he's going against someone like a Peyton Tolley, I probably wouldn't be able to back him. If it's more like Eduardo Rivera, because there's a lot of projections out there, might be willing to back him a little bit more. But certainly with Griffin Jax, I do think that if you can get some plus money there, that's going to be able to provide some value. And there are a few games that are a little bit murky, that are a little bit off the board right now. But that said, when it comes to the Rangers, we talked a little bit about them. Big series coming up against a Braves team that has really struggled. Last 40 days, they have the worst record in all of baseball. Cal Quantrill was a guy that I loved betting like 3 or 4 years ago when he was with the Guardians at big plus numbers. We're getting him right around plus 180. That total is 8.5. Want to get your thoughts here because I would probably like to get a little bit more plus money on Cal Quantrill to be able to pull the trigger, but that 8.5 total is actually calling my name to the under.
Yeah, it's so hard to trust Cal Quantrill, especially in recent history. I do agree with you, though, that the Braves here, it's so hard to trust this team right now just because of the way that they've looked. Honestly, Greg, should the Braves really be minus 200 favorites to anybody right now? I know it's Sale, and I know you have your ace on the mound, but as a rule of thumb, don't we just have to maybe look at the Rangers to win this game?
Yep, I'm thinking the exact same thing. Like I said, I want to try to get maybe a little bit more than a plus 180, but I just can't lay that sort of a number with the Atlanta Braves. They've really been scuffling. And how do you take a look at some of those hot and cold teams? Because we talked about it with the Red Sox. They were the hottest team going into the break. Ironically enough, the Braves, they were the coldest team going into the break. And maybe the break is exactly what a team does not need. But even with those few days off, I still sort of cling to what we've been seeing over the last few weeks. And it has caused me to have a massive downgrade on the Braves recently.
Yeah, I think there's a couple different ways to think about it. Like the Red Sox, for example, Greg, we all had them pretty highly rated coming into the year. Now, the Garrett Crochet injury happens, then you have to downgrade them because of that, and then Alex Cora gets canned, but they start to turn it around. Like, this is kind of the Red Sox team we thought we were getting in the first place, So it's a little late, and maybe it's a little too late, but they're in the wild card hunt. Whereas the Braves on the other side, you can look at this team and say, okay, this XYZ is why they're playing poorly, and it's injuries. They don't have a pitching staff right now. They're basically calling me and you out there to start on 4th and 5th days at this point. So I think the Braves is pretty easy if they can get healthy. And depending on what they do at the deadline, maybe they go get a Joe Ryan. We talked about him. Maybe they make the big move for Tariq Skubal. But the Braves, at least you can look at them and say, oh, well, it's injury. And if they could ever get healthy, then they might return to form. Whereas the Red Sox, kind of feels like the Red Sox, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop because right now it's a lot of Peyton Tolley pitching really well. It was Connolly Early pitching well when he was healthy. It's Jake Bennett pitching really well, who people didn't really know before the last couple of weeks. And so it feels like the other shoe is dropping there. So that's kind of where you have to parse through things, and you have to go through more than just the surface level record.
Yep, I'm right there with you as well, because we have seen some of these teams just have a big giant turnaround, and they're not necessarily the same team that we saw at the beginning part of the season. Looking at you, the San Diego Padres, as being one of those teams as well. And when I take a look at a team / a player that is going to be going through second half progression / regression, I've got one pitcher star that I think might be a good fade, and he's going to be going on Friday. Troy Melton. I have no idea how this guy has a 182 ERA. He's giving up 1.3 home runs per 9 innings with a 182 ERA. The Angels are certainly not the most trustworthy team in the world. I will dog them and dog them and dog them, but I like Reed Detmers. We're getting them right now at a minus 112. Am I crazy for thinking that this is a great time to bank on some regression for Troy Melton?
And it's not like the Angels can't hit. I mean, it's a lot of all or nothing with them because you have Trout, Soler, Adele at the top. A lot of home runs or nothing, Neto too in there. So, but you mentioned Melton gives up home runs. That's his weakness. That's his kryptonite. So if we're looking at it from that lens, I don't think you're crazy here. I think there's an angle on the Angels.
Yeah, I mean, man, we're getting them at a relatively pick-em price. I haven't bet the Angels a lot this year, and thank goodness, or else I would be in a massive hole right now. But you know what? Might be a little bit of value here on this one. And Jake, we do have a few games that are off the board, so it makes it a little bit murky for taking a look at some of these games for Friday. But there are quite a few games that are up there, and we're able to fire in. Is there anything that's really calling your name that we have yet to talk about?
Yeah, I mentioned them earlier, Greg, and it's the most profitable team this so far in baseball, the Chicago White Sox. You're getting them at a pretty significant dog against the Blue Jays. Blue Jays at home, they've played a little bit better, but they still haven't announced a pitcher, at least that I can see. And I know
looks like it'll be Spencer Miles.
Okay, so that's Joe Schmo at this point. It's not Dylan Cease. I think getting the White Sox here at plus 115 or thereabouts, I think that's pretty good value on a team because Anthony Kay doesn't wow you. He's just fine, but the Blue Jays are one of the worst teams in the league against left-handed pitching across the board. So, and this is what the White Sox do, Greg. Every week after week, day after day, it's lining the White Sox as significant dogs, getting significant plus money, and they just win. And now you have Munetaka Murakami back in the lineup as well. So that's a huge spark plug. That's a huge boost to a lineup that has already been playing well, went into the break after getting swept by the Red Sox, responded with a sweep of the A's. I think this White Sox team is still here to stay. I like them on the money line.
Yep, and could be some good value on the over. The Blue Jays just have had no power, but they don't really strike out a lot. Anthony Kay is a guy that's going to pitch quite a bit of contact. And for Miles, he's actually been very effective in his starts. He just doesn't go very deep in his starts as well. So you're not going to be getting him for very long, too. So I think that that's going to be a great one for Friday. We've got a lot that is going to be happening in the second half. Leading up to the trade deadline, it's going to be wild. And Jake, I know that you're doing such a great job day in and day out, looking at baseball, getting prepared for the second half, and so much more. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, on Twitter at DJ Hasan, Hasan, Instagram Hasan_Jake. Follow the Substack, hasanshacks.substack.com. Did a second half preview there on Thursday, looking at teams that might be buyers, might be sellers. A little bit of draft analysis too for the college baseball sickos or the people who are in those weeds, but doing everything over on the Substack and on the socials.
Absolutely. And Jake doing an absolutely incredible job. And I know the grind of college sports as well with college basketball, the 100 billion guys in the transfer portal. I'm looking forward to that. Jake knows all about that grind as well, so that's why we respect him so much on this podcast. And every single time he joins me, lends such great insights. So big thanks to Jake for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Up next, I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It's always great to be joined by Jake Hasan. He does such great work over at Better Day. He does a great job with the show Off the Board with our good friend Kobe Marcio. He is a man that, just like myself, began his life out there in the great Midwest, and every single time he joins me, he lends such great insight. So a big thanks to Jake for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter /X feed at @GUnit_D1. And this is one of the most difficult boards of the year to be able to handicap because we right now have a lot of TBD pitchers, so I'm going to do my absolute best to be able to keep things all squared away and all taken care of there, but there probably will be some changes that are made to some of these bets because we don't know the rotations quite yet for all these teams. All that will be updated on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81, and by, I would say, Saturday, things are going to be much more in line. Things are going to be back to a little bit more normal, but you always get this, shall we say, strange day. So how about if we get things started? This is 9:53, 9:54 on the card. This is one where we actually know what we're going to be getting. The Marlins are on the road against the Brewers. Sandy Alcantara goes for the Fish and Logan Anderson for the Brewers, and the Brewers minus 146 to minus 156 favorites, plus 124 to plus 130 is that number on Miami. Total is 8. Over is minus 115 to minus 120. The under is between even to minus 105, and I'm in on the Brewers. I did set them at a minus 162 for Logan Anderson. It's been a small sample size for him. He spent a lot of time on the injury list. If I'm not mistaken, he spent a little bit of time at the minors this season as well, but I mean, he's been great when he's been out there. A 3.18 ERA with a 2.47 fielding dependent, 10.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, only giving up about 0.6 home runs per 9. He made his first start in a little bit over a month just before the All-Star break. Did give up 3 runs to the St. Louis Cardinals, but all in all, I've been liking what I've been seeing there, and he is backed up by one of the better bullpens out there in the big leagues, as Aaron Ashby has been falling off a little bit, but we've seen Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill get back below a sub-350 ERA. Now you've got Chad Patrick, who's able to lend some long relief as well. Even someone like a Brian Fitzpatrick, whenever they've needed him, has been solid. Joe Kuno being on the injury list has honestly not hurt this team. The Brewers are right now Mambo number 5 in terms of bullpen ERA this season, and for the Miami Marlins, it's been a little bit more teeter-totter-ish. It was really good until they had that series out there in Colorado, but still, they've been able to maintain a bullpen ERA that is 7th in the big leagues. They are dealing with Anthony Bender, who's been dealing with a little bit of injury, and there's been just some mix and matches with them in general, and for Sandy Alcantara, he's just down with his swing and miss stuff this season. He's still doing a nice job keeping things out in front of him. 0.9 home runs, 2.3 walks per 9 innings, but 6.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's pretty much the lowest of his career, but still maintains a 3.99 ERA, 3.78 fielding dependent because he doesn't hurt himself, and now does face off against a Milwaukee Brewers team that does such a good job of just small balling you to death. Like Jake Bauers has 15 plus home runs. He's been able to give you about a 370 or so on base, but you just look up and down the boulevard at the Brewers, pretty much 1 through 6 on a night in and night out basis, all going to give you at least a 345 on base. One of the best base stealing teams in all of baseball with Bryce Harang, 360 on base, 14 home runs, 15 stolen bases. Garrett Mitchell, he's giving you about a 360 on base. He swipes a few bags. David Hamilton, 18 stolen bases out of him. So they do such a great job mixing and matching. Jackson Chourio, 13 home runs to 260 at-bats. He's hitting a 285. And for the Miami Marlins, this team has been a bottom 7 team in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. Now, prior to the break, the guys like Kyle Sauerzo and Casey have been a little bit of a disappointment throwing their Alberto Hernandez. They were able to reach between 12 and 13 home runs. Their batting averages are starting to get up a little bit, so you like to see that. And this team has really been towards the top of the National League in terms of stolen bases as well. Otto Lopez, Xavier Edwards, both at above a 300, a combined 30 stolen bases out of those two guys. Jacob Marcy needs it better than a $197, but still 19 stolen bases. Asterio Ruiz, 20 stolen bases as well. So I do think that with the Miami Marlins, they're going to be able to give you a relatively good showing. Lake Bakar is a pretty good long guy as well, but I do think that these two teams small ball their way to the over, so I might total it at 8.3, and for the Brewers, we'll up to minus 161 on that money line. 955, 956 on the card. It's the Reds. Yes, we're on to Cincinnati. On to the road against the Colorado Rockies. Gabriel Hughes goes for the Rockies, and it is one Mr. Brady Singer for the Reds. Reds are minus 104 to minus 105, minus 110 to a minus 115. That number on Colorado. 12 is the total, over and under, both a minus 105 to a minus 115. Set the Reds at a minus 157. I know that Brady Singer has not been good this year if you look at the full season numbers, but going into the All-Star break, 2 earned runs or fewer in 6 out of his last 7 starts. He's really been able to sharpen up here recently, and for Brady Singer, he has given up 2 home runs per 9 innings. That's a little bit of an issue, but he's been able to cut down on the walks here recently. I like that. And for Gabriel Hughes, just his third career appearance, he's given up 3 runs over the course of 9 innings, so nothing great, nothing awful. Hard to take too much out of that. When he was at the minor league level, he wasn't giving up a lot of the deep ball. He was posting up in ERA about a 4.63, but whole different ball of wax here. It's backed up by a bullpen that has been 26th in terms of ERA at a 4.95, and we're starting to see Antonio Senzatella has actually been really good in this bullpen, start to act up a little bit. It just has not been a good year in general for some of these guys like a Victor Vodnik. Jeremy Harrigan is starting to pick it up ever since coming off the injury list, but I mean, things have been rough there. I like Brendan Bernardino, sub 3 ERA. You've had Juan Mejia be able to give you a few okay innings, but he's seen his ERA go above a 5 as well. Blas Castano is on the injury list. Rockies have been a pretty solid team in terms of being able to put bat to ball. Hunter Goodman has been a good man out of his 27 home runs, so I believe 18 have come away from home, so he's actually been a worse hitter at home. You don't see that very often. Mickey Moniak coming out the injury list is big, 15 bombs. He's hitting at 275, and you do have these guys like a Jake McCarthy, Troy Johnson, hitting at 300 plus. Willie Castro has been able to now at 260. TJ Romfield, 380 on base, 12 home runs, and flip side of things, you've got a Reds lineup that now has Elly De La Cruz back. That's big because Cousin Sal Stewart, he's been your main guy. He's been able to give you just below about a 350 or so on base, and right now he's supplying 19 home runs. But you've got now JJ Bleday, Spencer Steer, Elly De La Cruz, all between 14 and 16 home runs, with De La Cruz darn near 350 on base. You need a little bit more from some of these guys like a Tyler Stevenson, TJ Friedel, Navoli Marte. They've got now their Cabrian Ames, which has been a good thing for the team because someone like an Edmund Arroyo has been a little bit better, and they are going to need to score some runs here because the bullpen has been shaky. Overall for the season, they're about 22nd in the big leagues towards bullpen ERA. It's been better since the beginning of the month of June. They've been able to get a few guys healthy, and the veterans are really starting to step up. You've been able to get some really nice innings out of someone like a Pierce Johnson, Sam Mold. These guys are below a 4.25 with their ERA. Brock and Roll Burke has really been one of your main guys, about a 3 ERA. Caleb Ferguson, since he's come off the injury list, sub 250 there. Do think that the Reds should be nice size favorites here. I'm taking them on the money line, set them at a minus 157. I like the over, so my total 12.6, 957, 958 on the card. It's the Cardinals. They're going to be on the road against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Right now the betting board reads to be determined versus to be determined, so they really did not do us any favors here. So I had to go to Fangraphs to try to project this one out. This is one of these games that might be subject to a lot of change, but that said, the grapevine has Merrill Kelly going for the Diamondbacks and Michael McGreevy most likely for the Cards. If we get that, I set the Cardinals at a minus 108, willing to lay up to minus 107 there, plus 109 or better in on the Diamondbacks, and made a total of 9.4, 9 or less in on the over, 9.5 or higher the under. Neither of these starting pitchers are going to knock your stocks off, but for McGreevy, a sub 350 ERA, he doesn't give up a lot of walks, just a hair over 2 walks per 9 innings. He pitches to a lot of contact, only about 6 or so strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's been able to do a nice job keeping things out in front of him and then passing it off to the bullpen. And for Merrill Kelly, if you get him, man, not been great. If you get Zach Gallen, it's just as bad as well. For Merrill Kelly, a 5.38 ERA, he's right now getting no swing and miss whatsoever, 5.7 strikeouts, 3.7 walks per 9 innings. Now, the Diamondbacks bullpen is not bad. I still don't necessarily trust in Paul Sewald at the closer's role, but I mean, hey, they've been able to get some good innings out of some of these guys like Jonathan Loaizaga, Taylor Clark, Ryan Thompson. They've been able to give you a sub 375 ERA, and it has been a Cardinals team that has had the likes of Matt Savance and Ryan Stanek posting up over a 4 ERA. Jojo Romero hasn't necessarily been himself this far this season, but you also have a Cardinals team that has absolutely raked when they've been away from home this season. Right now, they're averaging over 5.5 runs per game away from home. Only the LA Dodgers are averaging more, and you've been able to get great production out of Jordan Walker, who's been able to give you 20 plus home runs. He's hitting for over a 285. Additionally, you've been able to have a lot of guys that just find a way to be able to get on base. Ivan Herrera well above a 400 on base when he has been away from home this season. You've got Alec Burleson up to 15 bombs at 340 on base. J.J. Weatherholt at 360 on base. Could use maybe a little bit more of some of these mix and match guys like a Victor Scott, Pedro Paz, but overall, these guys have been solid. And for the Diamondbacks, just not the same amount of power that we've seen in the past. Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte has been able to give you 17 home runs, and he's seen his average go up a little bit. And then Corby Carroll, Nolan Arenado, 12 to 13 home runs apiece, with Carroll really toilet bowl towards the back half of the first half, 350 on base. And then you do have Geraldo Perdomo, 355 on base, Gabriel Moreno, 385 on base. Some of these mix and match guys have been relatively solid, but then when you get to the bottom of the fold, some of these guys like Tommy Troy, Tim Tewa, going to need a little bit more there. So I'm willing to lay up to minus 107 with the Cardinals, plus 109 or better the Diamondbacks, and then 9 or less like the over 9.5 or higher the under. Now we go to our double dip. 959, 960 will be in conjecture with 961, 962. It is the Rays, and they are going to be on the road against the Red Sox. Game 1 is confirmed. We know that we're getting Griffin Jacks for the Rays, and we're going to get Jake Bennett for the the Boston Red Sox. Game 2, Mason Englert should be going for the Rays. It's old to be determined for the Red Sox. I'll do my best there for you guys. We'll go Jax versus Bennett first since we've already got numbers. Right now, the Red Sox are anywhere between even money to minus 122. And then for the Tampa Bay Rays, they're anywhere between minus 120 to plus 101. So all over the place. 8.5 is the total, over and under both at minus 110. And I set the Red Sox at a minus 121. So as long as we can keep it a minus 120 or better, I am going to land on the Red Sox on the money line. Again, a little bit subject to change with a doubleheader for Griffin Jax. He has been significantly better as a starter rather than coming out of the bullpen. He has a sub-3 ERA as a starter. As a starter, he's still giving up about 1.4 to 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, but it's been a renaissance after he had an ERA of an 8 when he was coming out of the bullpen with 3 home runs allowed per 9 innings, so that was very much less than savory, and he is getting about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings to his credit, but I also really like what I've seen out of Jake Bennett this far this season as well. For Bennett, he's right now supplying a 2.64 ERA. I don't know if he quite maintains this. He's only getting 6.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he really limits damage. 0.6 home runs, 1.5 walks allowed per 9 innings. Now, take caution with the fact that the Red Sox are 10 games below 500 at home this far this season. Like, just some of the most wild home and road splits that you're going to find in all of baseball. They're right now averaging over 4.6 runs per game away from home, 3.55 runs per game at home, but you do have Wilson Contreras. We'll see if he has a derby slump, but 20 home runs, 380 on base, and you do have some mix and match guys that have been relatively okay in terms of moving the line, finding way on base, like Weiler Abreu, Masataka Yoshida, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Anthony Siegler, throwing their Ceddanne Rafaela. These are guys between about a 328 to a 345-ish on base, but you need more out of Jarren Duran. He was a little bit better towards the back half of the first half with regards to his power, but really not moving the line at all. Caleb Durbin has been a useless bat as well, and for the Red Sox, they continue to be a top 8 team in terms of opening ERA. Aroldis Chapman is one of the best closers in all of baseball, but these mix and match guys, Garrett Whitlock, Teran Guerrero, they've been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Giovanni Morin has been very solid in this bullpen. It is a Tampa Bay Rays team that, especially in a double-dip setting, having a bullpen that is in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of ERA, that is a little bit cautionary. You've been able to have Brian Baker be solid. He's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. And some of these mix and match guys, they pick up Casey Lugumina in a Rays uniform. He's got an ERA more around about a 3.6. Craig Kimbrell hasn't been awful, but I really don't trust in him. Kevin Kelly, Cam Boozer, these are guys giving you a sub-250 ERA. They're relatively solid, and for the Rays, it's a little bit top-heavy with their power, but man, Junior Caminero, 28 home runs in the first half. I think they had 12 home runs in his last 17 games. Guys absolutely in fuego. And then for Jonathan Aranda, Yandy Diaz, 13-plus home runs apiece, both over 390 on base, and they're just so good at stealing bases. Chandler Simpson, Taylor Walls, Cedric Mullins, between the three of them, you've been able to get a combined 49 stolen bases this season. Then someone like a Ben Williamson, Johnny DeLuca, these are guys you get 255. Ryan Velde, he's been able to do a solid job in terms of moving the line as well. So it does make this a fascinating circumstance. I do like the over here in game number 1. Semi-total at 8.8 and at a minus 110 or better. Going to be in on the Red Sox on the money line. And then game 2, we know that we're getting Mason Englert. And then it's right now looking like Peyton Tolley for the Boston Red Sox. I was seeing Sonny Gray out there. I would have a relatively similar price with regard to either of these guys. But that said, initially I set the Red Sox at a minus 128. Now, if you get neither of those two guys and you get a big giant downgrade, it's probably more of a pick'em price personally. So you take this with a little bit of a grain of salt right now because we don't know who's going to be going in game number 2, but for Mason Englert, we know that he's going to be going in this game, and he's probably going to be like an opener plus. I do think that they're going to be doing a little bit of mixing and matching because for Englert, he's typically going in bursts of about like 4, sometimes 5 innings, but that said, he's only pitched once since June 12th, so I don't think that he's going to be fully stretched out for this one, and when he's gone thus far this season, he's been posting up an ERA of a 3.82, 13 appearances, 30 and 2/3 innings, which is why I don't think that he goes deep, but 8.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, so 1.8 home runs per 9, that's a little bit rough, but they've been able to build him up just a little bit more here over the coming weeks. And if you do get Peyton Tolley, he's given up about 1 home run per 9 innings, sub 350 ERA. Same goes for Sonny Gray as well. So both of those guys have been relatively solid. So if you get Gray or Tolley, I'd be setting that line with the Red Sox being a minus 128 and then 8.5 or less in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under. If you get neither of those guys, it goes to a 9 or less to the over, a 9.5 or higher to the under. Like if you get an Eduardo Rivera, for example, I would be more of a pick'em game. I probably set the Red Sox if Fitz Rivera more around about a -105 to a -110. So do be mindful of that. Lots of subject to change in that game number 2. 963, 964 on the card. The White Sox are going to be on the road against the Blue Jays as Spencer Miles goes for the Jays, and Anthony Kay says okay to another start. And with the White Sox, they are an underdog here, a +112 to a +116, -130 to -136. That number on Toronto, 8.5 is the total. Over and under, both at -110. And I'm going to be in on the Blue Jays. I said about a -129. When we get the dime lines, we should be able to get more like a -125, even a -128 is going to be acceptable. So I'm going to be able to get there when it's all said and done. For Anthony Kay, he's been able to do an okay job with the ERA at a 4.23, but I fear a regression with him. 7.2 strikeouts, 3.5 walks per 9 innings, a 497 fielding independent, so he's pitching to quite a bit of contact, and whenever they've given Spencer Miles innings, he has actually been very solid here for the Blue Jays. Right now for Miles, he's posting up a 285 ERA, more of a 302 fielding independent, 8.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, only giving up about 0.6 bombs per 9. Now, he doesn't go deep. He's really not gone past 4 innings thus far this season, so you're going to have a lot of mixing and matching. But, hey, this has been a Blue Jays bullpen that since June 1st, they have been a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Tyler Rogers, Louis Varland, these have been your main 2 guys. These have been guys that have been able to give you a sub-250 ERA, and they've really weeded out the guys that weren't great. Like Tommy Nance is no longer even on the team. They were looking to Uriel Rodriguez to be able to give them a little bit of upside. He wasn't really able to do so, but they've been able to find a way to be able to mix and matches. Even when they tried it out there, someone like a Simeon Woods Richardson for some long relief, the few times that they gave him an opportunity, he was actually pretty solid in the first half too. So they figured that out. Adam Macko has been able to give you presentable innings as well, and the big thing for the Blue Jays, finding a little bit more power. Kazuma Okamoto, 22 home runs thus far this season. Lone guy on the roster with 10-plus home runs thus far this season. You've got plenty of guys that find a way on base. AC Sanchez has been dealing with a little bit of injury, but he probably going to be out for this game. Nathan Lukes, Ernie Clement, these are all guys hanging at least a 270. Yohendrick Pinago, Vlad Guerrero Jr., these are guys hanging above a 260. So, they do a good job there. They just haven't been able to bust through. And for the Blue Jays, who are a top 5 team in terms of few strikeouts on a per at-bat basis, and this is a White Sox team that continues to be a top 9 team in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. 3 guys, Miguel Vargas, Colson Montgomery, Montaka Murakami, all 20-plus home runs. For Murakami, just hasn't hit a home run since May because he spent a lot of time on the injury list, so I don't think that he's going to be quite himself here until a few weeks into the second half, but you do have some of these guys like a Miguel Vargas, who I mentioned before, Chase Medraw, Tristan Peters, all give you at least a 340 on base. You've been able to get some relatively good at-bats out of Jacob Gonzalez when he's been up at the big league level. Sam Antonassi has been able to give you a 380 on base, and this has been about a league average team in terms of bullpen area. You've got your untrustworthy guys, like I just do not trust in Sir Anthony Dominguez, Jordan Hicks, these are guys posting up over a 4 ERA. Trevor Richards has honestly not been bad for the team, and then you got Brian Hudson, Grant Taylor, Sean Newcomb, who have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, but I think that Anthony Kay really gives it up here. So I'm in on the over, so my total at 8.7, -128 or better, going to be taking the Jays on the money line. 965, 966 on the card. It's the Baltimore Orioles. They're going to be on the road. They're facing off against the Houston Astros. We do know that Peter Lambert is going to be on the bump for the Astros, and right now it's listed as to be determined for Baltimore. This game is off the board. Right now, Fangraphs showing Kyle Bradish should be starting in this game. I would set the Astros as a very slim favorite here of -106. Would be willing to go to a -105 there, +107. Looking at the Orioles, and then set a total of an 8.7. So 8.5 or less, like the over, a 9 or higher to the under. And Dean Kramer is the other candidate to pitch. If it's him, I think that Bradish would probably represent a slight upgrade, because for Dean Kramer, he hasn't even placed 5 starts this far this season. Now, Kramer in those starts has been relatively solid, but you do have to have a little bit of question mark there. So I'd be setting this more around -120 for the Astros if you do indeed get Mr. Kramer. Now, the Baltimore Orioles have been a little bit better with their bullpen recently. Uncle Rico Garcia, Ynier Cano, don't you know? These have been guys that would be able to give you a sub-325 ERA. And now Andrew Kittredge is starting to straighten it out as well. Keegan Aiken was just absolutely awful in this bullpen, but I think they've been able to find some presentable, good mix and match guys. Whenever you have Albert Suarez in long relief, he's been able to do a nice job for this team as well. But for the Baltimore Orioles, they do take a little bit of a fall off with their offense when they're away from home. Closer to about 4.7, 4.8 runs per game at home, closer to about 4.3 away from home. Pete Alonso, after a slow start to the season, back up to a 345 on base, 21 homers, and Gunnar Henderson has the 17 bombs. Leody Taveras has been able to move the line as well, but that said, for Henderson, 294 on base. You need a bit more there. Samuel Basallo really picked it up towards the back half of the first half, 16 home runs out of him, but still, you do have some of these guys like Jackson Holliday, Tyler O'Neill, Kobe Mayo, a lot of guys hitting at 220 or lower, and for the Houston Astros, it can be a little bit top-heavy with their lineup as well, but boy, is it nice to have a guy in Yordan Alvarez who's been able to give you a 425 on base and 31 home runs. That really helps. And then Christian Walker, maybe not a ton of average, but 20 home runs out of him. Cam Smith, Isaac Paredes, Jose Altuve, all between 12 and 13 home runs. Really outside of Paredes, you don't get a lot of on base. And this is an outfield that they certainly are going to need a little bit of a spark. These guys like Joey Luperfido, Bryce Matthews, Zach Cole, Zach DeZenzo, all these guys hitting at 230 or lower. Cam Smith is hitting like a 220, and then Yanier Diaz at the catcher spot, less than a 285 on base. That's a little bit of an issue, but don't look now, but since June 1st, the Astros have been a top 5 team in terms of bullpen area. Like, the bullpen was absolutely terrible to begin the season. All of a sudden, you've been able to find these guys that have been really good. Like, when Alimber Santa has been out there, he's been solid. Brian King, Steven Okert, got a lot of guys with a sub-3 ERA. Josh Hader coming off the injury list, that no doubt was big for him. And Peter Lambert, we do know that he's going to be going in this game, and he's been solid with the swing and miss stuff. 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's up about 1.15 home runs per 9. Could use a couple fewer walks, about 3.5 walks per 9 innings. But overall, I do think that he's going to be able to go out there and give you a good performance. So against Kyle Bradish, I'd be willing to lay up to minus 105 there. Against Shane Baz, someone else probably closer to minus 115 to a minus 120, and then 8.5 or less, like the over at 9 or higher, the under. 967, 968 on the card. The Tigers are going to be on the road against the Angels as Reed Detmers goes for the Halos, and it is one Mr. Troy Melton going for Detroit. 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 115, over is minus 105. Angels are minus 112, minus 105 on the Tigers, and I really like the Angels here. I set them at a minus 131. Troy Melton seems so due for regression that it's not even funny. Like, for Troy Melton, he's right now rocking a 182 ERA with a 407 fielding and a pennant. 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Like, he's got a 182 ERA with giving up 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. He has been very, very lucky that all these home runs have been solo shots. He does get to go up against an Angels team that has not been the same team when they've been at home rather than away from home with their scoring. For the Angels, they average about 4.9 runs per game. Away from home, closer to about 3.9 runs per game at home. But good news is you've got Mike Trout back in the fold. He's been able to do a nice job, give you over a 375 on base, and with this Angels bunch, you've also been able to have Zach Neto be able to give you some relatively good power as right now. He's been able to post up 19 home runs. Doesn't necessarily give you a lot of on base, and that's a lot of these guys. Joe Adele, 13 home runs, and for only about a 291 on base. So you're going to need to get a little bit more of something there. But some of these mix and match guys, like a Wade Meckler, has been hitting at 300. When Jose Siri's been out there, he's been able to give you professional at bats. So they've done a solid job there. For the Angels, they've actually not been an awful bullpen over the last few months. They are not throwing out there Alec Manoah and Jordan Romano anymore, so it couldn't have gotten worse. But I mean, some of these guys like Jay Silseth, Mitch Ferris, Jose Fermin, they've actually been able to give you a sub-380 ERA. Ryan Zefrian hasn't been the world's worst pitcher in the world, so I mean, there's been a little bit of improvement there. And for the Tigers, they themselves have actually been a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA really over the last 60 or so days. They've been able to find their bearings with Kadir Montero being a relatively good long guy for this team. And then you do have someone like a Tyler Holden who's been able to round into form, sub-325 ERA. Still dealing with some of the injuries to Brant Herter and company, but Kyle Finnegan has been relatively reliable. And it is a Tigers team that's right down the bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of run creation. Dylan Dingler's been great with 19 home runs, hitting about a 260. And then you've got Riley Green, Kevin McGonigal of above a 380 on base. But the guys at the bottom have been awful. Wencio Perez being out with injury is not a bad thing for this team. And Spencer Torkelson, 16 home runs, but hitting a 208 with a 305 on base. You need more there. And then the likes of Jake Rogers, Matt Vierling, Jahmai Jones, so many guys hitting below a 225. James Eldman, well, he's been out to not get hits, man. So that's been a little bit of an issue. And do think that the Angels, as a result, get the job done with a guy in Reed Detmers who has pitched so much better than what his ERA would indicate. For Reed Detmers, he's not really given up too much of the deep ball. His ERA is right now 4.39, but that fielding independent is more in the neighborhood of 3.35. 10.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1 home run per 9. So give me the Angels on the money line, set them at a minus 131, and like the under, semi-total at 8.3. 969, 970 on the card. The Dodgers are going to be on the road against the Yankees, as it is going to be Hiroki Sasaki going for the Dodgers and Garrett Cole for the Yankees. Yankees are at home between minus 105 to a minus 110, between minus 110 to a minus 115 for the Dodgers. 9 is the total, over is minus 120, and the under is even, and I'm going to be willing to take the Yankees here. I set them at a minus 115. I know that For Garrett Cole, it's been really not great since he's come off the injury list. 4.04 ERA. Fielding independent is right in that neighborhood of a 4.04. 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. Swing and miss stuff is starting to come back. He's back up to about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. You take that first start out, he's been above 9 strikeouts per 9. And for Roki Sasaki, it's just been a wobbly year for him. 5.33 ERA, 5.58 fielding independent, giving up 2.1 home runs per 9 innings. So what really has me concerned about Roki Sasaki, he just has not been able to pitch away from home this year. Like, it's not to say that he's been amazing at home. At home, 4.60 ERA, and at home, he's actually giving up 2.6 home runs per 9 innings. Away from home, it actually goes down a little bit, but still above 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, but a 6.25 ERA. Away from home with only 7.3 strikeouts per 9. That's a big issue. What else is an issue? The Yankees have definitely toilet pulled with their offense. This is a unit that over the last 22 games, they're averaging less than 3.55 runs per game. I do think that it could be going northward a little bit. Ben Rice, he's been able to give you the 23-plus home runs. His on-base percentage has been well above a 350 this season. You saw Paul Goldschmidt just be absolutely miserable towards the back half of the first half. I think that he's going to rebound a little bit. Still has over a 325 on base for the season. Cody Bellinger was actually the All-Star Game MVP. I don't know if that was necessarily quite warranted, but hey, he's been able to give you 345 on base. You've got Trent Grisham now moving the line for this team a little bit as well. So need more out of some of these mix and match guys. Ryan McMahon, the entire catcher spot has been an issue, but also one big advantage that the Yankees have, and it's a big reason why I'm going to be in on them on the money line, has been this has been a really good bullpen this year. For the Yankees, right now, they are second in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA at a 3.10. If you look exclusively since June 1st, I mean, they certainly have been far and away your number one team. David Benhar has been able to give you a sub-335 ERA. I still don't necessarily have a lot of faith in Camilo Duvall, but these guys like a Paul Blackburn, Brett Hedrick, they've been able to do a nice job as well. And for the LA Dodgers, they are dealing with an injury to Blake Trinan. It's been a little bit mix and match with having Jack Dreher give you over 350 ERA. I like what Alex Vesia has been able to do. You've been able to have Edgar Enriquez be a little bit better as well. So it's a team that's right around about ninth in terms of opening ERA, but I certainly do think that the offense is going to be on display. I think that the Yankees look a little bit better here. I did set my total at 8.8, so on the 9, I like the under, but it's not the Yankees down to minus 115. I'm going to take a shot on them on the money line. 971, 972 on the card. It's the Pirates. They're going to be on the road against the Guardians. Gavin Williams goes for the Guardians. Jared Jones for the Buccos, and Pirates who find themselves as a slim underdog here between plus 105 to a plus 110. Meanwhile, minus 120 to minus 130 is that number on Cleveland, and 7.5 is the total. The over is minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is minus 105 to a minus 110, and I'm going to be in on the Guardians. I'm willing to go up to about a minus 131 for Gavin Williams. He has been so much better when he has been at home rather than away from home this season. Swing and miss stuff has really been the forte of his. These right now give you a 381 ERA, fielding independent of a 375, but he has been able to supply 10.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, and as I was alluding to, the numbers have been much better at home. The one weakness that he's had is giving up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings this year. When he's been at home, that's been closer to about 1 home run per 9 innings. Away from home, he's been giving up more in the neighborhood, about 1.6, 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, and that ERA goes down to a 3 when he's at home. Meanwhile, for Jared Jones, he's got nice swing and miss stuff. He, too, has been having some command issues. 4.37 ERA, 3.67 fielding independent, because he has been giving up the 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, 10 punch-outs per 9. Going into the break, he looked much better. 0-1 runs allowed in 3 out of his last 4 starts, so some encouragement there, but you still do have a Pirates bullpen that has not been great. Like Dennis Santana, he has been posting up an ERA well above a 4. Evan Sisko, I would argue, has been perhaps their best reliever this far this season, landed on the injury list. Like, it was so bad for Justin Lawrence that they had to DFA him. Right now, this team has a 4.48 bullpen ERA. That is 23rd in all baseball. And for the Guardians, typically we're used to seeing them right at top of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Right now, they're more around about a 3.74, but they rounded into form towards the back half of the first half. Eric Zabrowski has been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA. Tim Aaron has been a pretty steady guy. I know that he's been dealing with a little bit of injury, but I've been liking what I've been seeing out of him. You've been actually able to have Matthew Festa be able to give you a little bit more as well, so that's been solid for the Guardians. The big thing for the team is over their last 35 games, averaging less than 4 runs per contest. They've been dealing with the injuries to Jose Ramirez and Anel Martinez, who have been arguably your best 2 matchers this year. Chase Lauder is starting to pick it up, though. Do have a few guys like DeLauder, Brian Rocchio, Travis Bazzana, between about a 330 to a 345 on base. Stephen Kwan has been miserable, hitting at 225. Actually has a 332 on base, but just expect a little bit more there. Rhys Hoskins, the guys have been supposed to be supplying power, just have not supplied a lot of power. And for the Pirates, this is a team that when they've been at home, they've been number 1 in the big leagues in terms of run creation at home. That does dip a little bit when they're away from home, though. About 5.7 runs per game at home, 4.9 away from home. I do think that you're going to get enough production here for the over, though. as Brandon Lau has been able to get loud. He's been able to give you well over 20 home runs this far this season. Maybe not the world's greatest on base, but still hitting about a 245. That's more than respectable. And then you've got Brian Reynolds give you a 400 on base. Spencer Horwitz more around about a 385 on base. Ryan O'Hearn about a 350 on base. So a lot of guys have been able to do a nice job stepping up even with the O'Neill Cruz injury, but it's just hard to have a lot of faith in this Pirates team with their bullpen and Jared Jones. He has been giving up the deep ball a little bit. So I do like the over. Sub by total is 7.8. And with the Guardians, we'll lay up to minus 130 or so on that money line. 973, 974 on the card. The Rangers are going to be on the road against the Braves. Chris Sale hopes to not sell for the Braves, and you've got Mr. Cal Quantrill going for the Texas Rangers. Rangers are underdogs here between plus 169 to plus 180, minus $2 to minus 215. That number on the Braves with a total of 8.5. Under is minus 115. The over is minus 105. And with this Texas Rangers team, I'm going to be willing to take a shot. I needed at least a plus 180 to be able to do so, but I do like them on the money line. We were talking about it with Jake Hasan. It's just a case where I feel like this Braves team needs to see a few go through the hoop before you can back them at this big of a price. Even with Chris Sale being great, 2.20 ERA, 0.7 home runs per 9 innings allowed, 10.7 strikeouts per 9, and this is a bullpen that has the best ERA in the National League at a 3.08. It's been a little bit, shall we say, herky-jerky here recently. Tyler Kinley has been a guy that's dealt with a little bit of injury, and Robert Suarez is as well. So those are big notes, but Dylan Lee, Dylan Dodd, the Dodd father, these two guys have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA in that bullpen. You've been able to get good innings out of Raciel Iglesias this season as well. So I don't have a lot of doubts there, and that's a big reason why I'm in on the under. And you do have a Braves team that has been quite the same on offense when they've been at home rather than away from home. They've still been a very rock-solid offense, but averaging closer to 4.7 runs per game at home, closer to about 5 runs per game away from home. And Drake Baldwin hasn't quite been himself since coming off the injury list. He's been able to get really good production, though, out of Matt Olson. He's been able to give you 25-plus home runs. He's really been carrying the team. Obviously, Ronald Acuna Jr. being banged up towards the last month or so. That has been a bit of an issue for this team as well. And then you do have your guys that have been sort of the steadying guys. Michael Harris has been able to just below 316 home runs. Ozzie, Albies, 270 or so average, 14 home runs. And then some of these mix and match guys have been relatively okay, like Tom Smith has been able to move the line for you, along with Mauricio Dubon on the other end for the Texas Rangers with Wyatt Langford back. I do think that this offense is going to take off. It has been a Texas Rangers team that has not been the best with their offense over the last few years. They're 23rd in terms of run creation this year with about 4.16 runs per game. It does go up to closer about 4.4 runs per game away from them, closer to about league average. With Langford, he's been hitting over 275. He's been able to deliver good power when he's actually been healthy. You saw of Corey Seager, who's been banged up, but Jake Berger, Jock Peterson, combined 31 home runs. Recognize that neither guy really hits for a ton of average, but that's big. And then you do have Josh Young hitting nearly 300. Ezekiel Duran has been able to about a 270. Don't call his name Alejandro Ozuna has been able to move the line as well. For the Rangers, their bullpen did toilet bowl towards the back half of the first half, but you are starting to get back some of these guys. Gavin Collier has been a relatively reliable arm for them. They've been able to get him at the sub 375 ERA. Peyton Gray has been nice as well. Jacob Latz has been solid. Now, I believe that Junis is out on the injury list. You still have Jacob Latz, who's been able to give you a sub 2 ERA, and Tyler Alexander as well. So just feel like this is a little bit too aggressive of a number in a game that I think is going to be low scoring. Cal Quantrill is not going to get a lot of strikeouts. He's only getting like 5.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but keeps things up in front of him. 1.2 home runs, 2.5 walks per 9 innings. So, and on the underside, I told 7.8, and we'll take plus 180 plus on the Rangers. 975, 976 on the card. The Twins are going to be on the road against the Cubs. Colin Reyes has hit Pepper Ray to another start. Bailey Ober is on the bump for the Twins, and right now, we're seeing a pretty high total on this one. Total is 10.5. The under is between minus 110 to a minus 120. Over is between even a minus 110. For the Cubs, minus 130 to minus 138 is that number on them. Plus 115 to plus 120 for the Minnesota Twins. And with the Twins dealing with the Byron Buxton injury, I think that you've got some good value here on the under. I did some total at a 9.1 for Buxton, over 25 home runs. He has been absolutely magnificent. And they still have someone like a Brooks Lee who's been able to give you 15 to 16 home runs. Cody Clemens, these are guys hitting like a 240 to 250, but offense is just not the same. Lucas Shaw, while he moves the line a little bit, he's not going to give you a ton of power. We'll say Royce Lewis, since getting called back up from the minor leagues, he's been better, but it's not like he's been amazing or anything like that. It is a Twins team that overall for the season in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of run creation, but I have to have some question marks there. For Bailey Ober, he saw a massive velocity dip towards the beginning part of the season, has made one start since coming off the injury list, and it was a good one. Gave up 1 run in 5 innings against the Cleveland Guardians. I will say it's the Cleveland Guardians, and he has overall for the season only gotten about 6.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, but could be a sign of positivity to come. And for Colin Ray, he's a jag, as I like to call him. Just a guy. 4.75 ERA, 4.91 fielding dependent, 1.3 home runs, 3.4 walks per 9 innings, 6.7 strikeouts per 9 innings is below average, but everything else about him is average. Not great, not terrible, and you've right now got a well above average total, which obviously is based on the Wrigley Field win, and it's going to be blowing out a little bit, but 5 miles per hour? I recognize that even in Wrigley Field, a little bit of wind, it does something, but I feel like this is an overcorrection here, so I am in on this under. For the Cubs, they're a league average team in terms of bullpen ERA at a 4.09, and the Twins, well, they are right now 29th in terms of bullpen ERA at a 5.19. For the Twins, they've been able to get a little bit more out of some of these mix and match guys like Anthony Banda, Yandres Gomez, but it has still been an so brutal bullpen. Like Taylor Rogers is posting up an ERA well above a 5. Andrew Morris has actually been okay. Yay, Andrew Morris, but that's that. Yeah, it's very, very brutal, and for the Cubs, they're just dealing with so many injuries. Having Daniel Palencia out of the fold has certainly been hurting this team, but you've had Jacob Webb continue to give you a sub-4 ERA. You've been able to get some good innings out of some of these mix-and-match guys that they've been calling on, like a Trent Thornton has been really good. Ryan Rolston is posting up a sub-3 ERA, and for the Cubs, you've got Pete Armstrong, who I would say over the last 60 days was a top 2, top 3 hitter in all baseball going into the All-Star break. 21 home runs, 385 on base, and you do have a lot of guys that move the line that don't necessarily have the world's greatest batting averages on the team, like an Ian Happ, 220 average, but a 327 on base. He's been able to supply you with 17 home runs. Alex Bregman looked a little bit better in that final series going into the All-Star break. 241 average, 336 on base percentage. Carson Kelly's been able to give you about a 365 on base. Same for Michael Busch, and Busch is only hitting at 239, but I do think that for the Cubs, they're going to be able to get to Obert. They're going to be able to get to that bad bullpen. So I'm going to be in on the money line of the Cubs, set them at minus 144. And again, I think that they're overcorrecting for the win. I'm in on the under, set my total 9.1. 977, 978 on the card. The Padres are going to be on the road against the Royals. Seth Lugo goes for the Royals, and Michael King hopes to be the king for the Pods. And the Padres do find themselves as a slim favorite here. Minus 108 to a minus 115. Even money to minus 110 is a number on Kansas City. 10 is the total. Over is minus 115. Under is minus 105. And I made a total of an 8.6, so I'm going to be in on this total to the under with Michael King. He has been pitching to quite a bit of contact. He's only getting about 7.6 strikeouts per 9 innings this season, but he's still doing a nice job, not giving up a lot of the deep ball. The 3.6 walks per 9 innings, that's a little bit of an issue, and for the Royals, this has been a unit that has been much better with their offense at home rather than away from home. They move the fences in at Kauffman Stadium. That's why they're averaging closer to about 4.8 runs per game at home, 3.7 runs per game away from home. But I still do think that this is a massive correction, even though it is going to be some relatively good hitting conditions out there in Kansas City. Like Bobby Witt Jr., double-figure amount of homers, darn near 30 stolen bases, 365 on base. That has been incredible. And some of these mix-and-match guys like Nick Lofton, Michael Massey, they may be able to move the line, but Salvador Perez, like a 250 on base with 11 home runs. You just expect more there. Vinny Pasquantino has been in and out of the lineup. Should be good to go for the second half of the season, but he's been a disappointment for this team as well. You just have a lot of guys have not stepped up. I like Jack Aguileone and Carter Jensen. Certainly do have some upside, but for the Padres, they back up Michael King with some really nice bullpen pieces. Obviously, Mason Miller, if they can get to him, sub-1 ERA. But on top of that, Bradley Rodriguez, Yuki Matsui, Jason Adam, who's right now dealing with a little bit of injury, Wandy Peralta. These are all guys that have supplied a sub-3 ERA. And Andre Marjon overall for the season, 3.42 ERA. Last 65 or so days, that has been more of a sub-255 ERA. And for the Padres, they're dead last in terms of run creation as well. Manny Machado has 19 home runs, and he's now hitting above a 200. He's at a 203. He's still expected to be a little bit better than that. Gavin Sheets, Jackson Merrill, they're both hitting about a 220 with not necessarily a ton of power. 14 home runs for Sheets. I guess it's not awful, but man, Fernando Tatis Jr., only 5 home runs. 340 on base, that's pretty much leading the way, but you've had a lot of issues there. And then with the Kansas City Royals, Seth Lugo, I feel like his pitch a little bit better than what that ERA would indicate. He's never going to be a guy that's going to completely blow you away or anything like that. If I'm not mistaken, spent a year or two with the San Diego Padres as well, but 4.56 ERA. He's right now got closer to a 4.38 fielding independent, 7.4 strikeouts, 2.9 walks per 9 innings, backed up by a bullpen that is absolutely terrible. Currently, this Royals team is a bottom 6 team in terms of bullpen ERA. The Carlos Aceves injury has just really derailed this team, and you've gotten one or two guys like Daniel Lynch have been presentable in the bullpen. He's been able to give you a sub-350 ERA. Beck Way in a small sample size hasn't been bad. John Schreiber has been okay when he's been out there, but Lucas Erceg over a 5 ERA. You just have not been able to get a ton out of someone like an Alex Lang, who's well above a 5.50 ERA. Matt Strahm was not what they were expecting as well. He's got an ERA above a 7 right now, so it's a circumstance where I do think that for the Padres, they do find a way to be able to get the job done. Set them at a minus 112, so one delay up to a minus 111 on that money line, and like the under, somebody told it at 8.6, 978 989, 980 on the card. The Nationals are on the road against the Athletics. Gage jump, hopes to not get jumped for the Athletics, and Cade Cavalli is on the bum for the Nats. And Nationals do find themselves as a underdog here between even money to -110, between -110 to a -118 for the Athletics. 10 is the total, over and under both at -110. I do like the over. I did set my total at 10.6 for Gage jump. Massive home and road splits this season. When he has been on the road, he has yet to give up a home run this season. He's posting up an ERA of a sub-1 on the road, and when he has been at home, well, he has not been the same pitcher, as he's posting up a 6.20 ERA when he is at home, and that home runs per 9 rate more around about a 1.5. And now you face off against a Washington Nationals team that is numero uno in terms of run creation. As for the Nationals, you've been able to have James Wood, Givey Goodwood with over 27 home runs, just below 400 on base. CJ Abrams, Luis Garcia, 19 plus home runs apiece out of these guys. Curtis Mead has been able to give you 15 home runs. Mead doesn't necessarily hit for the world's greatest average, but he's able to move the line. You've had some of these guys like Alan Lyle and company be able to step up. You also have two bullpens that are not necessarily so great, so this total of 10, I'm going to be taking a shot on the over. For the Athletics, Alvarado has been in the building for over a 4 ERA. Hogan Harris has been okay. Justin Sterner has been right around about a 4, but when you get these guys like a Mark Leiter Jr. out there, a veteran that is not very good, that's been an issue. Mason Barnett has also been relatively okay, but most of these guys very untrustworthy. Right now, this team is 28th in bullpen ERA of 5.16. Nationals are 5.07 with their ERA. That is 27th. Richard Dickey Lovelady, deal with an injury has been an issue. Brad Lord, who's probably their best long guy, has been dealing with a little bit of ailment as well. Orlando Robalta has been halfway presentable for this team, but Paxton Schultz supplying well above a 5 ERA. So you got a lot of guys that have just not been trustworthy in general. When they went to Cole Henry, I don't know if they're going to have him up for the second half of the season. 7.90 ERA. And then for the Athletics, you've got Tyler Soderstrom back. He was having an incredible month of June before they place him on the injury list, but still, overall for the season, 345 on base, 14 home runs. Nick Kurtz dealing with an injury. It hurts. 20 home runs, and he was giving you over a 4 on base. But Shea Langoliers, 20 home runs. He's hitting darn near 260. You've been able to get some good production out of someone like Henry Bolte. Doesn't give you a lot of home run power, but double-figure amount of stolen bases, 345 on base. Carlos Cortez, 355 on base, and this is a ballpark where it just absolutely flies. So do think that you're going to get a higher scoring game, and I did set Cade Cavalli as a slim favorite. About a 383-ish ERA, but closer to 327 field dependent. He is getting 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, less than 1 home run per 9, and I'm willing to bank on him here. For the Nationals, willing to lay up to a -107 on that money line, and like the over, I told 10.6, wrap things up with 981, 982. The Giants are going to be on the road against the Mariners. Bryce Miller goes for the M's, and Landon Roop is on the bump for the Giants, and the Giants are finding themselves as a pretty good-sized underdog here. You're going to be getting them between -146 to a -157, +124 to a +135 for the San Francisco Giants. 7 is the total, over is -120. The under is even money, and for the Mariners, I set them at a -166. Bryce Miller has just been that good this season. I know that, 1 or 2 rough starts going into the All-Star break, but I absolutely love the way that this man has been shoving. For Miller, he's been able to really up his swing and miss stuff, and he just really doesn't give up walks whatsoever. 1.4 walks per 9 innings, a lot. 10.1 strikeouts per 9. Now with that 218 ERA, closer to 312 field dependent because he does give up the deep ball a little bit, but he's now in a very pitcher-friendly ballpark out there in Seattle, going against a Giants team that, Rafael Devers, 15 plus home runs. Willie Adames up to 14 bombs, but Adames still less than a 300 on base. You've had Casey Schmidt give you 16 plus home runs. He's been hitting more in that neighborhood, about a 260, 265, and have the likes of a Luis Arias, who's made it above a 300. Jungle Lee has been solid as well. Getting back Eloy Ramos should be able to help, but still, it's been a bottom 10 team in terms of run creation. The Mariners, they themselves are a bottom 10 team in terms of run creation, with the way that Cal Raleigh has just fallen down the toilet bowl. You've got J.P. Crawford with a double-figure amount of homers, but he's hitting less than a 230. You've had Dom Canzone give you double-figure amount of bombs. He's up to about a 345 on base. He's been solid, but Josh Naylor, even though he's hitting like 255, swiping some bags, he hasn't necessarily been able to give you a lot of power, and Landon Roop, I think, will be able to give you a relatively presentable start. He's better than the 427 ERA would indicate. 9.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, only giving up about 0.6 bombs per 9 as well, but also with this Giants bullpen, they have fallen into the bottom 10 in terms of bullpen ERA. Caleb Killian, he's posting up an ERA that is now well above a 350, so that's an issue. Eric Miller just has not been really reliable whatsoever, and they've just dealt with injuries to these guys like Yoel Piguero, Matt Gage and company that were so solid towards the beginning part of the season, so it's gotten less and less trustworthy. Dylan Smith really had a rough go of it in the last week or two leading up to the All-Star break, and for the Seattle Mariners, even though they're dealing with injuries, Matt Brash, Cooper Criswell, they're right now dealing with injury. You've got likes of Nick Davia, Gabe Spire, Edward Bizardo, Jose Ferrer, who have been able to give you a sub-350 ERA. Recognize that this has not been the world's greatest season for Andres Munoz, but I I think that he's going to kick it into gear. And even with Andres Munoz really struggling, the Mariners, fourth in terms of bullpen ERA at a 3.56. I think that 7 is just a little bit too low on this total, so I might total 7.3, but want to take a shot here on the Mariners on the money line, and that'll wrap things up for the Friday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I'm with you guys every single day, giving you picks and analysis on every game, every day, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much.